Hello everybody, this is Flashback Productions, and today I wanted to show off a Separatist Outpost MOC that I made. The scenery of it is next to this river in some grassy field where the vegetation is starting to grow up upon this. And it's just a small little outpost. It's just a facade as well. There's nothing on these two walls. But the idea of it is that this right here is just a back wall, it's just not built. And same with the side, hence why in the front, you can see the curves at least go up to here, where there it just gets cut off. So this would ideally be about 2 studs longer. But this is the overall outpost, and I have it depicting a little battle scene. Now looking at the river, you can see that it's got jagged rocks in it, which would deter some potential attackers. Now you can see I used a mix of translucent blue with white to add some foam or bubbles, which I also added some studs, and then along the edges a darker blue to symbolize the river getting deeper. And then along the bank I used light and dark sand to show dry and wet sand. And you can see a little clone trooper in the river right now. And then along this, it's darker water, which could symbolize either pollution or just the shadows from the structure extending down into the water. Now going onto the field, you can see a brighter green for plants. These are some riverbed plants. And then you can see an old rusted battle droid arm. Some plants along here, battle droids fighting, down droids, down clones, jet trooper, stab, just the battle scene. Over here, I like what I did, and there's a little puddle, and you can see a bit of the water plants growing, showing that this is a little permanent puddle. And then there's a wire, which would ideally connect to a generator, which is off base plate, and then it just leads right up into the base. And then there's also a connection point on the other side, but since it's not being used, there's a plant growing out of it. Coming up to the front door, we can see a clone captain trying to break into the door with another clone covering for him. I showed earlier, you can see little vents along the side, and then a set of doors, which actually have a feature. I'm going to try to show this off the best I can from this angle, but if you go under here and you can pull the doors apart, if I can get my other hand, just like that, and they slide, and you can see one has like that and the other shaped the opposite way. So I just want to do a kind of complex interlocking door. But yeah, that's that. Obviously this is not the best scenario to show it off in, but I'll show it off better once I get more into it. And before we go inside, we have another deck out here, which includes some more fighting. You got 5s there, and then right here you have a mounted machine gun, which it looks like they've disabled, so it stopped firing on them. But I like the build here. I was inspired by the 2012 Two-Face truck. I just added these little pieces to extend it. And then over there you have another door that can just slide open. Again, hard to do from this angle, but if I come around back, it'll be easier. If I can reach it. There we go. And lastly, we have a landing pad right here, which leads into this little radio tower with some antenna, and then another sliding door, which just has a little thing inside that I'll go into more detail later. Now, in order to better access the inside, you can just pop off all the stuff, and it really just comes off in little sections like these, so you can easily access the interior. These off. Just like that. Now here's a better look at the door function. That just slides open and close. I included these little bars to grab onto. But yeah, that's how that works. And then scattered throughout are just little builds that I made. I was inspired by another YouTuber. I'll link his video below with things like this barrier, which I really like how it came out. And then these crates here. And right here you have a center control panel with some battle droids operating it, along with some more other battle droids scattered without. And then back there you can see it's an older control center operated droid, and he's been forgotten by time behind some crates and stuff that are back here. I also really like what I did with this little thing where it looks like it was falling off and it's leaning on, which is just being held up like that, hidden by this crate, so it just looks like it's leaning on, but it's actually attached. Same with this. And a detail I'm glad I included is right here. Don't know if any of you will get the reference. In fact, I'll be shocked if any of you do. It is a Separatist R1 series droid based off the one that came in the 2005 Sandcrawler, which was later featured in the LEGO Star Wars game, also known as Droid 4. You got some support pillars here. Now, since there would be a wall here, these aren't actual, like, they wouldn't actually be here. Especially this one. This one could be here, but this one, it looked like this on the other side. And then over in this corner, you have a little prison cell with a protocol droid manning the controls. And then you can come around back here to see what this looks like. Of course, it's cramped. It's got a little tap, a bed, and then if you look around, a bucket with a clone trooper prisoner. There's the bucket. And then right above, you can see his armor, which isn't attached to anything. It just slides right in, and then it's just his armor placed on that. And then here are the stairs that just lead up to the second level with a B2 right there. Now on the second level, here's a better look at the sliding door. I also gave it another handle so it's easier to slide. You can see a commander droid and a name slipping my mind. One of these droids, planning out some different battle scenarios. This one's doing it on the wall, this one's doing it on a table. I like how this turned out with the space CMF for that. And then you have some custom characters. They're from the Wolfman species that show up from time to time in Star Wars. I'm sure it has an official name, I just don't know off the top of my head. You can see there's a general and then two others, and they're having a hologram meeting with a hooded figure, probably Count Dooku. And this is their little meeting table, which I designed to look like the Separatist logo with the blue underneath the floor to add an additional effect. And then there's a ladder that just goes up to the next area. And then lastly, you have this little sliding door, which leads to a little radio control center. You can't really see the console, but you got a regular and pilot droid looking at it, which has a wire that leads up to the roof, which can be just clipped right on. And then you have the actual tower, which has a satellite dish and several antennae sticking up out of it. And then you have a clone trooper, specifically a heavy trooper, grappled onto it with a thermal detonator, and he's getting ready to break out this prisoner. And here's what the station would look like normally. You can see some battle droids patrolling down here, some more up on lookout here. That is all for this video. I hope you enjoyed my creation. If so, make sure to check out some of my other videos if you have not already.